Hi everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to talk about what the heck is going on with canning lids. So it is almost Halloween or Samhain or whatever it is that you celebrate this time of year, and the canning season is pretty much at a close. But I'm going to preface that by saying that I never really stopped canning. I mean, let me know in the comments if this is the same with you, but in the winter months, this is when I'm putting up lots of soup stocks. I'm canning my chickpeas, my black beans. I'm pressure canning a lot of complete and full meals. So we'll actually thaw things from the freezer. Like one of the things I have planned is to do a whole bunch of chili. That'll just be shelf stable and ready to go. I just pop a lid off and dinner's done. And so I'm never really done canning. And from a business perspective, I make elderberry syrup pretty much all winter long for my community. I don't ship my finished elderberry syrup. But I do have DIY kits, so if you're interested in making your own, you can check out my shop. There is a link in the description below. I also have a video on how to can and make elderberry syrup, so you can check that out too. So while the bulk of the fresh produce is done coming in, I'm pretty much canning year round, just not as intensely. And there was something that was brought to my attention by a friend of mine, and she was asking me if I'd noticed the difference in canning lids. And it's funny because I've been so busy that I wasn't really paying attention. You know how that works, right? Until someone brings something to your attention, you're like, hold on a second, I have noticed that. And this is what I've noticed. So I'm going to preface this with a bit of a background. I've been canning for a long time. I have been water bath canning for at least 15 years. I think I made my first batch of jam probably, my son just turned 10, so probably 6 or 7 years before he was born, so even longer than that. I've been canning for a long time. And so what I'm going to share with you, of course, are just my experiences. The reason I'm filming this is because I want to know what your experiences are. Have you been experiencing the same thing as me? And so in my many years of canning, seal failures were not something that was really common for me. And whenever I did have a jar that didn't seal, there was usually a really obvious reason. Once I pulled the lid off, it was like, oh crap, that one's got a dent in it. Or there was a tiny chip in the top of the jar, and I just wasn't being diligent and checking to make sure that the jars didn't have any cracks or chips or anything in them. Or there was like a little tiny dill seed or something, you know, there was always a reason. Up until recently. And what I'm noticing now is with almost every single round in the canner, I have at least one jar that doesn't seal. And then it clicked when this friend messaged me. She's like, did you notice? And then there was another friend on Instagram was like, they changed their lids. And I was like, darn it, they did. They did. So I'm, again, going to state I'm in Canada. So the lids that I use here may not be what you have in the United States, but I'd be very curious because my understanding is that Bernardin and Ball are owned by the same company. So if you're also experiencing this, let me know. So when I started canning, I used to get my canning lids at the dollar store, and this is what they look like. It's going to be reversed unless, I don't know, I can figure out the magic. I'm on selfie mode because my husband hasn't come home from work yet. Anywho, they looked like this, okay? The red and green box from Bernardin. This was always what the lids looked like. And then they got a makeover. And I noticed that this year, all of their branding changed. And now they're these little blue boxes. Have you seen these? Right? Everything shifted and changed, and now these are really hard to find. I even sent my mother-in-law out on a mission to try to find some, and she was like, here, just have mine. I don't do a lot of canning. So I have 4 precious boxes of these left. That's it. And the rest of them are these. And I'm really hoping that I can figure out how to flip the camera, but if not, you're just going to have to get real fancy at reading backwards. You see what that says? Seals up to 18 months. What the heck? What the heck? What the heck? What the heck? That's all I have to say about that, because these suckers, nowhere on here does it state. You used to be able to keep, now they say you really should use it within 1 to 2 years. And most of the reason why you want to use your canned goods up within 1 to 2 years is you're going to start to notice degradation in color. Okay, so things are going to fade. Your jam's not going to be as vibrantly colored. I noticed that a lot this year when I did my strawberry rhubarb pie filling and I put it beside a jar that I did last year, and I was like, ooh, there's definitely a color difference, even if you store it in the dark. And there may be a bit of a flavor difference, but as long as that seal is still intact, your food is good. And now, suddenly, they're only sealing up to 18 months. So you know what that translates to in my world? They cheaped out. They cheaped out on the lids, just like they did the jars. And the jars, that happened a few years back when they, especially the Golden Harvest brand, when they switched and they're no longer tempered glass. And I found this out the hard way. So if you watch one of my very first YouTube videos, which is an utter embarrassment for me at this point, but it has so many views I can't take it down. It's my dill pickle canning recipe. And I talk about how I would sterilize my jars and keep my jars warm in the oven. And I did that for years, and it was no problem until they switched the glass, and it's no longer tempered glass. So those jars cannot stand the change from dry heat to wet heat. And so what was happening is my jars were exploding in the canner, which was not only messy, but when I was making elderberry syrup, very expensive, it dipped into my profit. So I actually called the company because I was so frustrated, because it scares the crap out of you when something like crashes and explodes in your canner. And they were like, oh, no, you can't do that anymore. We don't use tempered glass anymore. I was like, oh, so you mean the glass is cheaper? They're like, well, that's not what I said. And I was like, but it's what you implied. So that happened years back, and now they've done it with the lids. The lids are cheaper. The rubber seal, it doesn't even suction down the way that it used to. You used to get that really beautiful little divot at the top, right? When it sucks down and you get that pop noise and you're all excited because your jar's sealed. It doesn't do that anymore either. I mean, it's still there, but not nearly to the extent. So the only thing I can think of is that they've cheaped out on the lids. Now, of course, you can go down the rabbit hole of, potential reasons why they've done that. We don't need to do that here. We can just, the evidence for me is fairly clear, but I want to hear from you. Are you experiencing the same thing? Are you noticing a difference in quality between these guys and these guys, right? Do you still have some of the old lids? Maybe do a bit of an experiment. I don't know. If you got spare time on your hand and you feel like commenting on my YouTube videos. Okay, so next, all right, Corinne, what are we going to do about it? What I'm going to do about it is I'm going to start sourcing lids elsewhere. I had a friend on Instagram, and for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of the company. So when I do remember, for my Canadian friends, I'm going to pop that link below. I can't remember what it was called. I really should have looked that up before I started filming, but these videos have become rather spontaneous lately. I was like, I'm just going to go film. But the other thing I'm looking into is Lehman's in the United States. I hear their lids are top notch, made in the United States. And so for me, I would have to pay likely import fees and potentially duty. But if I'm ordering a large enough quantity that will last me many, many years, it may be worth it. But if you're in the same position, if you've got solutions, if you have other companies that you're looking at using, drop them in the comments, share with the community so we can all keep canning and keep putting up food that's going to last longer than, I doubt it'll even be 18 months. That's going to be curious. How long all the stuff I can this summer, how long it'll actually last. And of course, the absolute inconvenience of seal failure, because now I have all these jars that I don't necessarily want to run through the canner again. And then they end up in the fridge and they're not shelf stable, right? So anywho, that is my ramble for today. I'm curious if you've noticed the same thing. If you have, like I said, comment below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And until next time, this is Corinne from Spirea Herbs, wishing you health, wellness, and happy canning.